Okay, on the way, welcome to this breakdown and reaction of the U.S. men's national team victory over El Salvador. So, I did watch the match twice. I was not able to watch it completely initially because I was working at the time. So, I wanted to make sure I watched it again, some of the bits and parts that I did miss. And, I think it was. We'll go just based off of the halves first, then we'll talk about individual performances. Obviously, the game started out, I think really with some dominance by the U.S., but I think those missed chances, in the 1540 and 1845 by Ferreira, that's the minute and seconds. That really kind of just changed things. After those two misses, I feel like El Salvador really settled in, frustrated the U.S., were very compact. The way they pressed was just made it difficult for anything in the midfield. You saw at times, they're just really packing it in, forcing everything out wide. I think that's just a really good game plan from Hugo Perez, and he did a good job with that, forcing everything out wide. And at times, I think that's where really, at the latter part of that first half, you saw some frustration. Pulisic was having to drop way too deep, while Anthony Robinson was kind of just overlapping quite a bit. I feel like sometimes that's why I wouldn't mind Dest on the left and being kind of a more inverted fullback, just so Pulisic can stay wide. Because he just has this tendency, I feel like, to drop way too deep, and he pinches in centrally. And running at the defense centrally just really is not his strong suit. He needs to be on that touch line, and then of course he can cut in, and just have that more freedom on that wing, and that's just something I feel like he lacked. I don't know if it's the game plan, him wanting to play that way. I feel like it's a bit, with tactics. It felt like, kind of the typical Berhalter ball, trying to create those overloads at the time, and at the end of that first half is what it felt like there. But because he's kind of having the fullbacks get forward to occupy those spaces, create some overloads. Meanwhile, Pulisic was kind of tucked in centrally, and that's just not his best position. I feel like there was a lot of frustration from him and other players in that first half after those misses. I do think if Ferreira would have converted those chances, it would have been a completely different game, probably 3-0, 4-0, if he would have been able to convert those chances and really break the game open and have El Salvador chasing the game a bit more. But yeah, I think that first half, it was just a tale of two parts. In reality, it was just that those first 20 minutes looked good, but then El Salvador really settled in and kind of dictated the game a bit more, and actually had a couple decent chances themselves due to some sloppy turnovers from Dest. Adams was also fairly sloppy with his distribution at times this match. In the second half, I think things were much better. Obviously, a few more chances were created. Obviously, the goal by Robinson. There was also the flick-on header from Ferreira to Musa, who unfortunately couldn't convert that chance, and kind of a half chance from Jordan Morris to McKennie at one point. But other than that, and there was a few headers as well, a few corners that could have probably done better on. Other than that, I just feel like the U.S. didn't really have that killer instinct to really just put that game away. Should have been much better than 1-0 in my opinion. But I think a lot of it does have to do with the way El Salvador played, especially at the end of that first half. The last 20 minutes or so, they really were just dictating play and frustrating the U.S. quite a bit. But I think the proper adjustments were made in that second half, because in that first half you saw Musa and McKennie basically filling in that left back back spot, the drop deep to receive the ball as Robinson and Dest would push forward. And again, that's kind of that Berhalter ball, and it just didn't feel like, because of that, there's no connection between the midfield at one point, and that's why I think just sometimes it's gonna be a little too cute tactically, trying to do too much with the overloads and getting those fullbacks so high up there. When I just think, as much as Berhalter rates Robinson and Dest, they don't always have that final ball, and they're not as good in that final third, I feel like, as McKennie and Musa. And that's just something with him tactically and his views of the game that I do not agree with. He was saying, we can have a lot of goals and assists come from Dest, Yedlin, and Robinson, but their final passes really are not there most of the time. Honestly, it's just what it is. Robinson had a very good game here, but for the most part, him and Des do not always have that final product. And I feel like you see much more. You have a much better opportunity of having that from McKennie and Musa or a guy like Luca de la Torre, getting that final killer pass to create a chance. But it is what it is. I think we'll go more into the individual performances now, as we'll talk about Matt Turner. He didn't have to do much with saves or anything. He had like one save, but he wasn't testing much. I think he has improved with his distribution, as he actually had some pretty good moments in possession. And I also did have the stats. You can see the possession-wise. In the end, U.S. did dominate the game per se. And there were 17 total shots, 16 chances created, 5 big chances, 89% pass success, 16 fouls conceded, 8 corners. So we'll kind of go back to talking about this. There was 30 crosses, and I think that's an issue with selection with Berhalter. If you're going to be forced to play on the wings like that, Jesus Ferreira is not that type of striker. He's more of a guy who's going to come back, receive the ball. I mean, he's played center attacking mid recently. He's played on the wing even in the most recent friendly. He's a versatile attacker, and I feel like this wasn't the match for him if we're going to be forced to play on the wing. This is a match that really could have used Ricardo Pepi or a guy like P. Falk, who wasn't called up, maybe even Josh Sargent, who are much better in the air. Because if we're forced to play on the wings and put all those crosses in, we need someone who can get on the end of them a bit more. Obviously, Freire got on the end of one that he could not put away, which was a big chance missed. But I just think that's an issue again. I think there's just a lot of tactical and selection issues that really showed with Berhalter in this match, because I think with all those crosses, if we would have really had a target in there, could have been different match in that manner for sure. Especially because once you're forcing into the wing like that, and you don't have someone who can really test those center backs, getting on the end of a cross, in the air, I think that just kind of changed the dynamic. But obviously in the end, there were still plenty of chances created nonetheless that we could have done better with for sure. But again, Turner, like I said, we'll get back to that. Matt Turner, I actually thought he had some good moments in distribution, which is promising to see, because that's his big thing. He's a great shot stopper, but his distribution could be poor, and he's even said himself he's working a lot on that area of his game. I think it showed here. I think he did fairly well with some of the passes. He actually had a few moments where he picked out some pretty good passes, that was promising to see. Richards and Zimmerman really were not tested much. They had some decent moments on the ball, but nothing spectacular. I actually think Zimmerman showed some improvements with his passing ability, and Richards has always had that ability. But I do think the way the match was, with how compact the pressing was and how compact the midfield was of El Salvador, it was really hard for him to try to pick out some of those passes that he usually can to break lines. But moving on to Dest. He had some good moments defensively, created a big chance, with Weah at 18:45, basically the flick on header by Weah to Ferreira. Combined well, he's saucy. He's going to dribble. He's going to lose possession sometimes in bad areas, which is kind of what led to that big counter that culminated in Alex Roldan's shot that was just hit just wide. But you kind of just have to let Des be Des, run at defenders. But still, you need that final ball, and he's not had that final ball. Always, it's not always there, and that's an issue. He's got to get a bit better with picking out that pass in the final third. He did combine well with Weah, and I think that's a really good partnership we could have brewing there. He in the end 4 dribbles completed, 12 of his 21 duels won, 2 out of 5 tackles won, and 6 recoveries. Pretty good game from him. Then Anthony Robinson, I've always been a big critic of him. I just feel like a lot of times he doesn't play with his head up. His technical ability isn't always there. But he was dangerous going forward, and his final ball was better than usual. Created 3 chances, recorded 3 shots on goal, was really dangerous, in the final third with that. Had a good effort he had on goal. If he just curled a little bit more, might have been a goal. Was pretty solid defensively with 9 recoveries also. So I think that was a good to see some progression from him, because I think a lot of times, players are I think that's why you want to play wide. Maybe Hugo Perez wanted to see the U.S. play wide, because you kind of take out Pulisic and you ask Des and Robinson to make things happen, and none of them have shown exactly to have the best ability in the final third. So I think it's a good game plan, And it's kind of weird because Berhalter, he sees it playing it into his hands, but I don't think he always does. So that's that. So we talked about Destin Robinson. Moving on to Tyler Adams. He's just an interesting player because he had so many good moments defensively. One at 11:30 where he just tracked back, completely he reads the game so well. But he has some loose passes at times that are really bad. I think I remember one or two in the first half. In the 70th minute, trying out to play out the back, he lost the ball in a very dangerous spot. But thankfully, he was able to recover, and the rest of the defense was able to cover. But still, I mean, he had a very good game defensively: 6 duels won, 2 tackles won, 2 interceptions, 10 recoveries. But he has to improve, honestly, with his distribution at times. I've noticed it recently, can be very sloppy on the ball. He ended up with like 90% passing still, but some of those passes he missed were in some very dangerous spots, and he has to clean that up. And I think we talked about earlier, Musa and McKennie they weren't really given the opportunity early on to drive at the defense and combine, especially in that first half. Because of the way they packed it centrally. But in the second half, they really got things going. I feel like McKennie had the pass away that led to Anthony Robinson's goal, and he created another chance in the 55th minute. Just missed a header in the 57th. Then Musa in the 68th, with that run from deep where he beat 3 defenders, he drew 3 fouls, he won 5 duels, he had a few dribbles completed. I just feel like if we are with no Adams, if you put him in like a double pivot with maybe McKennie or someone else, he could really could be the thing to do, because he looked actually pretty good, playing in that deeper role that he had to play for the most part in this match, because of the way he was kind of being just kind of pressed out of the game with the way the midfield was. I mean, I think he could certainly play in a double pivot and actually do fairly well. He did a good job. I enjoyed the way he played. Obviously, I think on the counter and in the final third is kind of in that progressing the ball, the final third is his best area of his game. But if he can continue to do stuff like that, where he dribbles and beats 3 players and takes 3 players out of the game like that, that's huge to create chances. So I really enjoyed the way he played. Really solid player for the most part, other than the fact that I think he just could not get in some of those more dangerous spots we saw in some of the previous matches, just because of the way Hugo Perez's game plan was set up. But Weah, I love his quote-unquote verticality. He stretches the defense. He still just sometimes lacks that final pass, and I think that's really just some of the issues in the final third. Isn't that killer instinct at times? But he had that flick-on header for Ferreira, and then he was played in behind that created the Anthony Robinson goal. Hit the ball at the goalkeeper, fell back to Ferreira and went back to Robinson. Could have probably finished that chance, or maybe found the sweat at first, but I think his ability to stretch the defense is huge, and he needs to start versus Canada. No doubt he has to start versus Canada. And yeah, just what he provides is not something we have too much with the wingers we have. It's Paul Riola doesn't have that. He can't run at defenders. He can't beat defenders. He's just more of a defensive type of winger. This Jordan Morris maybe eventually could provide something like that, but he's not played enough matches in my opinion. Christian Pulisic, we'll get into him. He's forced to come back to the ball with Robinson pushing higher up on the wing. Didn't get the ball really in dangerous spots. Sometimes he does look like he wants to be the hero rather than combining with his teammates, but he just didn't really have the opportunity to run at the defense on the wing. He was forced central, so he was just kind of trying to do some of the stuff he does on the wing centrally in some tougher spots to do that. He needs to be on the touchline rather than tucked in so much. That's almost why I feel like sometimes you got to experiment maybe with, again, Dest and Pulisic, maybe possibly, or try Pulisic on the right wing. I don't know. I just feel like the spacing wasn't there with him and Ferreira, because he was tucking in so much centrally, so they were kind of in the same spaces at times, and I feel like that kind of killed some of the chemistry in the attack at times also. So hopefully we see a better performance, and he has the opportunity to stay wide against Canada and be on that touchline, run at defenses, and does do what he does so well. I think we'll get into Ferreira. I think he had some good moments. I think you see his ability to hold up play, the combination play, but obviously those missed chances at 15:40 and 18:45 were kind of a big deal. Obviously missing those chances kind of really just changed the context of the match. I think if he would have converted those chances, it would have been a blowout in my opinion. But I think he just again, he wasn't sure where to be at times. He's played so many positions for Berhalter and at club level. He's played on the wing for Berhalter, even at club sometimes he was playing there. This last season he actually finally got a run as a center attacking mid, but now it looks like he's going to be number 9 this season. So I feel like it's a lack of familiarity and just not being in rhythm, not being in season. I think this is again more on Berhalter with tactics and selection. I do think this would have been a good match for someone like Pepe or again like a target man like Pfalk. Even Zardes looked good in some of the moments he was actually on the pitch. He did well with his hold up play, won some headers, which created some interesting opportunities when he came on in the second half. Aronson, really not much to say about him. He brought his usual energy, pressing, but he didn't do much in the attack other than a couple of decent set piece deliveries. Morris pressed and helped out defensively. He did put in a good cross into McKennie for half chance at 88th minute. So that kind of sums up my thoughts on some of the players and the match. I think there needs to be just... I just want to see a decent first half for once. A full, complete 90 minutes. I feel like the only time we really have seen that is against Mexico. It was the best, full, complete performance we saw from this team. There wasn't the goal in the first half, obviously, but the danger was there. And I do think a lot of it, again, has to do with selection, maybe just trying to do much tactically again. I think sometimes pushing the fullbacks up so much really is what hurts Pulisic, and not give him that opportunity to have that space on the wing to run at defenders. But other than that, I think, getting 3 points is great. Now we just have to get them versus Canada. I do think things have to improve a lot for that Canada match. I think no matter what, we'll be able to beat Honduras, but that match against Canada is big, and I think we need to be a lot better in the final third. And some of the sloppy moments in possession, especially from like Adams and Dest, will be punished by someone like Jonathan David, in my opinion. So with that, thank you all for tuning in. Leave your thoughts in the comment section below. Hope you enjoyed this video. Love you. Thank you for tuning in. I'll be signing out now, and I'll catch you guys later.